Hi, and thank you for joining me right here on the Toddcast. I watch people, I even watch myself, and sometimes I notice a key ingredient in people that I want to emulate. And it's a bubbling up like champagne of joy that comes out of their system. I see it all the time. First noticed it with my wife's family. The whole family operates out of their heart, and joy just permeates wherever they go. And as my business grew, and then I opened up two other businesses and things started expanding, and I found myself on the biggest stages in the world, I got so bogged down being an overachiever that I forgot about the bubbling joy out of my heart. I want to talk with you about that.
This podcast is brought to you by the Wirebuzz team. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because I've spent the past decade growing Wirebuzz into a digital marketing powerhouse designed to maximize clarity in complex sales processes so we can help accelerate revenue. And we do this in three phases. Phase one, we transform your website to function like your best salesperson, and then also incorporate persuasive on-demand sales videos. Now your entire team is aligned on messaging and they're injecting massive clarity into your prospect's head. So your site looks great, but it also has engaging content that helps your team sell on demand 24/7. The next phase, phase two, we train your sales and marketing teams to sell remotely or in person to expand the impact of your sales team. And the third phase is we develop and run targeted ads to your prospects. Scale those ads to help you achieve more business results. Sign up for the Wirebuzz Company newsletter to learn more about effective and simple ways to improve your company messaging, attract more digital attention, and ultimately make more sales.
I think joy is one of these key missing ingredients today. I'm sitting down with Tiffany Moon. She is Dr. Tiffany Moon, a certified board anesthesiologist. She's the mom of twins and the author of The Joy Prescription, which is debuted at #1 on the USA Today list. Hi, Dr. Moon.
Hi, Todd. It's nice to see you.
My gosh, what a pleasure it is to be able to spend a few moments with you. Physicians and even overachieving entrepreneurs like me, we struggle with joy, don't we?
Yes, I think there's this pervasive belief amongst high achievers that we sort of need to check off a checklist before we can attain joy. And it seemed to me like it was an ever moving finishing line.
Yeah, I actually have an operating system that my therapist, and by that I mean my business coach, says is not acceptable. And that operating theory is progress equals happiness, and joy should be independent of progress, shouldn't it?
Yes, I think so. I think what I struggled with for so long is that I always tied my worth and my identity to my achievements. And that took a lot of the joy away.
I'm learning at this point in my life to remember to put joy first. How do you define and describe joy? Could you do that for the listeners?
Yeah, I say that joy is a state of being where you feel like you're being your true self, where you have a sense of purpose and you feel gratitude for being alive and having all the wonderful things. Now, being joyful doesn't mean that you walk around smiling at strangers and, shaking hands and kissing babies. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean this like toxic positivity. It just means having an appreciation for life and a sense of wonderment and curiosity about everything rather than, oh, woe is me, things aren't going my way, oh, there's a traffic jam. I think we can all fall into that a little bit. And when I remind myself to be joyful, it kind of takes me out of that negative attitude.
I live it and I see it. And I watched my in-laws live with joy. I've been with the same family for 26 years, and I've noticed that they operate out of joy different than my family does. My family's all high achievers that are juggling like circus clowns, and nobody's really happy when you're with them. And my wife's family is the opposite end. of the joy spectrum. And you mentioned something a moment ago about gratitude. Gratitude is like a secret in the world of joy. Can you unpack how they work together, how they're related?
Yes. A lot of what holds us back, I believe, is fear, right? There's a little almond shaped part of our brain called the amygdala, and it sees basically any change as bad because we have progressed a little bit farther than our neurobiology has. And so our amygdala wants to keep us safe. And fear is what holds people from achieving their dreams, reaching for their new opportunities. And I always say that it's hard to be grateful and curious and fearful at the same time. So, whenever I get new opportunities presented to me, like going on TV, like writing a book, yes, of course, I was afraid, but I allowed my curiosity and my gratitude for the opportunity to outweigh my fear. And people ask me all the time before you get on these stages in front of thousands of people, like, aren't you scared? I'm like, of course I'm scared. I'm human. But you just have to outweigh your fear by 1 or 2% more with gratitude, curiosity, and then you go ahead.
I love how you think. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started helping Tony Robbins and each of his companies. He asked me to jump in and help, and revenue went through the roof. And then he pushed me out onto the biggest stage in the world. And often I'm standing in stadiums, 25,000 people. I'm the only person on the stage. I'm teaching for a couple of hours or something. And people ask me the same question. And what I think about is, how do I reconnect myself and not focus on the fear or the panic, but about the joy and the blessing to be able to serve this many people at one time? Gratitude as like a ripcord that we could pull at a moment's notice in a crisis when we're not feeling joyful. And gratitude can help move us out of that position to a position of strength and confidence, and also recognizing the blessing before us. Do you see it similarly?
Yes, exactly. And I love Tony. I've been to several of his events. I have several friends that are like lions or platinums and have been to his house in Idaho and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I am definitely Team Tony. And what does he say all the time? Like, where focus goes, energy flows. And it's so true. And I do a lot with women in particular about building their personal brand. And every time I do coaching with my group and with my private clients, there's all this like, oh, but there's haters out there. Like every time I post, like somebody says something mean. And I'm like, so? I'm like, you just got maybe 8 positive comments and 2 negative ones. And we're sitting here wasting our coaching session on the 2 hateful comments that you got. Like, it doesn't matter. Why don't you focus on the people who thought that your content had value, that you were entertaining, educational, they learned something from you? Like, there are always going to be haters. And if you're truly invested in building yourself as a personal brand, which I don't know anyone who's not interested in that, you must be willing to deal with the fact that not everyone is going to like you and not everyone is going to agree with you. And guess what, babe? That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I know. There's the Jim Rohn philosophy of stand guard at the door of your mind. And whenever that door's left open, all that negative chatter can overtake the great gifts that you have to share with people. And so I too have to close that door. And then once you get good at closing the door, the one that seeps into your mind with negative thoughts, then all of a sudden it becomes a muscle, and that muscle can be flexed during the most important moments. And your book, The Joy Prescription, it blends science, lived experiences, and practical strategies. As a physician, how did you approach translating complex emotions and neurological concepts into something simple, even doable?
Well, the book I would say is more of a memoir with a personal development slash self-help angle. There's not too much science in there, even though I am a physician and the book is called Joy Prescriptions. We just thought that that would be a funny play on the fact that I'm a doctor. And in this case, I'm prescribing you joy and tell me what human being on this earth doesn't need more joy in their life, right? But there's no references in there. There's no quoted clinical studies, no trials, no scientific data. The thought behind the book is that I've had so many experiences throughout my life through which I've learned some very valuable lessons. And I wanted to tell my story. And then at the end of each chapter, give the reader an actual joy prescription to take back into their life and do something with it. Because, yeah, it's nice to read a memoir, but let's be honest, when we're reading, we're all kind of like, well, what's in it for me? Like, how is this going to benefit my life? Right. And so I thought, I'm just going to spell it out for you. I'm literally going to give you a joy prescription at the end of the chapter, and you do with that what you will.
Ah, a prescription without a copay. Finally, somebody who figured it out, right? And
Yes, and I take insurance. Oh my gosh, so many doctors. I'm like, what is the point of having medical insurance? Because none of my doctors actually seem to take it anymore.
all right, so I do a lot of coaching for physicians. It's one of my groups that I serve, help them generate new patients in waiting rooms that know, love, and trust them before the first meeting. And I'm honored to get to do that. But I do notice that physicians struggle with standing out, making a name for themselves. And typically, the best physicians aren't the best known. Okay. Talk to us about that. Like, why do you think that happens?
I think the typical person who goes to medical school wants to help people is generally science minded. And we want to help other people and not necessarily be recognized for it. We didn't go into the profession so that somebody could say, oh, wow, doctor, you're the best. You saved my life, pat on the back, things like that. We just have a deep rooted sense of wanting to help people and not needing recognition for it. So it almost feels uncomfortable when you start to be recognized and receive recognition and accolades and attention, especially from the media or social media. And you almost want to be like, no, 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 this isn't, I don't need all this. Like, I just want to be a good doctor. I don't need all this recognition and attention. I hate to say this, but it's always a few bad apples that spoil the bunch. There's some doctors out there that seem to be more concerned with their perception and getting on a TV show or something like that. And so then if you are trying to get recognition for what you do, sometimes people see it as being thirsty or your heart is in the wrong place, or it's a very fine line to tread as a physician influencer.
But what I see is the best known are the ones who are people are beating down their door. And it's no different than, let's say, a chef. Like, I've never been to Bobby Flay's restaurant, but every time I jump on the internet, he is like Bobby Flay all friggin' day and makes me want to go to his restaurant. Same as,
It doesn't make me want to go to his restaurant.
but it could be any of those celebrity chefs that people like seek out. And I think physicians today have to become their own marketers. Like, for some crazy thing that's happened to physicians, if they're going to get the full impact of their medical school investment, they do have to step out there and like make a name for themselves and advocate for patients. Like, I know you see that developing. Is that something that physicians should be concerned about?
I think so. When I first started out on social media, maybe like 2018, 2019, just kind of posting, and I never posted about medicine. I was actually posting about bags and shoes and makeup and skincare. And my name wasn't even my real name. My original Instagram name was at the Style Doctor because I wanted to help women be more confident and feel good and look good. And that was kind of where I was going. And I never talked about medicine. And then it got found out out in my circle at work that I was on social media somehow. And I remember people making fun of me for it, mocking me. I remember being called unprofessional. I remember being called into my boss's office and told to take some social media posts down because it quote unquote reflected poorly against the department. And I was like, how does me dancing in my pajamas at home reflect poorly on the, like, I am not, I never said I was perfect. You know what I mean? And like, I'm just home on a Saturday night drinking wine and dancing in my pajamas. Like, I'm not doing anything illegal. And it
Sounds
just,
kind of
it,
fun.
it's got, I need to have fun. Don't you want your physician to be kind of normal and fun and not like one of those people that is grumpy and has no hobbies and, is constantly sad all the time? And it's so funny because now it's evolved and I'm being asked by Doximity, which is like a social media platform for physicians, to give a talk at their annual meeting about social media use amongst physicians. And I'm like, oh man, how the pendulum has swung. I'm being chastised for my presence on social media, being called unprofessional, and now giving lectures and being flown out and, standing in front of 1,000 physicians and talking about the importance of building your brand as a physician online. Because, yes, you're a wonderful physician, but if no one knows about you and your area of expertise and how you can help them, then what? Shoulder shrug. And like you said, Todd, physicians by and large traditionally have been very uncomfortable with promoting themselves online and elsewhere.
Okay, so here, in the interest of full disclosure, I've got a ton of physician friends. My wife has told me I need to diversify my friend group. Okay, because
Why?
we're all
We're
physicians.
the best people to be friends with. If you fall down, if you have some gastrointestinal bleeding, if you have a
Right.
wart, if you're having a colonoscopy, and like, we're the most useful kind of people. How more diversified do you want?
I know you're so right, but I've been on the board of the American Society of Breast Surgeons for maybe 5 or 7 years, and so every time a physician comes to town, it's dinner with physicians, and so I've noticed that they are typically frustrated that they aren't getting promoted by their hospital or their practice properly, and they have to dip a toe and damn it, do it on their own to make it happen. And shifting gears, I'm really interested in Joy. I'm fascinated by what you're doing and your summit. Can we talk about Lead Her Summit and this movement that you're creating and how you're helping women?
Yeah, what I realized when I started coaching women, both individually and in groups, was that women don't lack competence. They often lack confidence. And I took it upon myself to help women increase their visibility and their confidence so that they can build this strong personal brand. That's how Lead Her Summit was born. So we've now had 2 summits in Dallas, one retreat, which was in Cabo. The 2026 retreat is going to be in Costa Rica. And I'm already working on the 2027 retreat because I'm an anesthesiologist and I plan like way ahead, right? So I won't be doing an actual Lead Her Summit in 2026, but I just have such a passion for uplifting women because I hear the same stories over and over again. It's these women physicians that have worked their tails off, that have sacrificed their 20s, their fertility, and then now they're like in their mid 30s, maybe 40s, they're mid career, they're a few years in their faculty attending position, or maybe they work in a private practice, and they're sort of like, I don't know, this isn't all it was cracked
Yeah.
up to be. I get the sense that some women feel like they were sold a false bill of goods, Because when we're young and we're in medical school, there's this finish line mentality, right? Like, I'll be happy when I graduate from college and get into medical school. I'll be happy when I get into my top residency pick. Oh, well, I have a bunch of student loans. So I'll be happy when I become an attending and I can pay off all my student loans. Like the finish line move, as you see. And then you kind of check off all these boxes and you're getting towards the end of this checklist and you're sort of like, well, what else is there? Yes, I take care of patients and yes, I have a family, and I don't mean to sound ungrateful here, because they're building wonderful lives, but there seems to be something missing. And often what's missing is them. You lose sight of yourself. I ask women, like, what hobbies do you have? What do you do for fun? How do you pour into yourself? And they're like, hobbies? What is that? Does sleep count? And I'm like, okay, this is where we've gone wrong. When you've given so much and spent the better half of your adult life
Yeah.
learning and practicing to take care of other people, and you don't even take care of yourself. And so that's what a lot of I do in Lead Her Summit is coaching women to pour back into themselves and live with more joy and intention. And as far as I know, when the woman of the household, when mom is happy and doing well, everybody does better.
Yeah. The mom is the weather in the home. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like you can just
Yes.
gauge everything off of mom. Let's talk about gauging what women walk into the room at Lead Her. Like, what is the emotional state you want women to feel when they walk into that room? And most importantly, what is the transformational state you want them to leave with?
Yeah, I think, when people are a little bit new to it, they're like, I've never been to a conference like this before. I've only been to my society meetings,
Yeah.
and this is so empowering here, and the speakers are so amazing. And I intentionally group different kinds of women together at the tables, like the seating is intentional. And what I see in like 2 or 3 days from these women is such a transformation. I see like light bulbs go off. I look at the audience when the speakers are on stage. I don't look at the speaker, I look at the audience, and I see them laughing. Occasionally, I see them crying. I see the wheels turning, an occasional light bulb go off, and just this like empowerment of like, you know what, I can do this. I can reinvent myself. It's not too late. I can pivot. I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, because so many of us have like a sunk cost fallacy that's like, well, crap, I went to school for this long, went to residency, have $200,000 worth of loans. I can't not do this anymore. And I'm like, you cannot think like, because you think that way, you will forever be miserable doing this, right? Like a lot of the work that I do at the end of the day is just mindset shifts. Because if you can shift your mindset about something, the lens through which you see the world and then interact within the world completely changes.
I see that all the time in my own life, in clients' lives, and the transformation that happens when they do have that shift is so invaluable. Look, it's obvious to me and for my colleagues in the medical space that are like, dude, you've got to talk with her. That you've got a movement that you're developing 5 years from now. Picture it down the road. What is the Joy Prescription community and the Lead Her Summit? What does that become? And what is the next chapter for you?
Gosh, 2025 was such a big year for me professionally that I'm actually not taking on any new projects for 2026. If I had my crystal
Woo-hoo.
ball,
Don't we celebrate that? Like,
I'm
can I
actually
get an
taking my
amen?
own advice. Imagine
Yeah.
that. I always say, like, rest is not a reward. This is crazy, Todd. In the last year and a half, I launched Lead Her Summit from scratch by myself for 200 women, had a retreat for 20 women in Cabo, launched Joy Prescriptions, which, as you know, debuted at #1 in the self help category of USA Today. Did another Lead Her Summit, which was just a month ago, and have filled all 20 spots for my Costa Rica retreat in 2026. And I looked at my husband and I was like, babe, I'm tired. And he was like, as you should be. And I was like, in 2026, I don't want to do any new things. My publisher is already asking me to do a second book. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot right now. Like it was so much. I'm taking a break from the summit, which because the size of it, it's just a lot to manage. And I know a lot of people have teams for these big in-person events. I did not have a team. It was me and my one assistant, and we were like losing sleep towards the end
Yeah,
of
of
things.
course.
And so I always tell women, like, there's nothing wrong with taking a little downtime, reading, meditating, going to yoga, sleeping 8 hours a night. Imagine that. And kind of figuring out what your next step is. I think for the last several years, I've been sort of accepting a lot of the opportunities that have been presented to me. And I think, no is a powerful word. From someone who has said yes to a lot in the last few years, I think I'm going to say no with intention a little bit more coming up because, I have a family, my kids are getting older, my husband's been ignored for the last few months. He would like his wife back. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think people need to like apologize or even have to explain it.
No, you sure don't. Clearly, my wife must have prescribed me meeting with you because I spent 4 years writing my first book. It was #1 bestseller. Now I've already finished the next book, Lead Generation Goldmine, released this month. And I've got 2 Netflix style documentaries that I'm the host of and the executive producer, as if I needed more to do. I start the year on stage in early January for Tony Robbins in front of thousands. So in my brain, when you're saying you're going to be more selective in 2026, I'm thinking, tell me more. Can you write me a prescription for that? Because Lord knows I need it. And I think it's really, high achievers need to also make sure that our families aren't the ones taking the brunt of our, achievements. It's a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I will say though, I am trying to get on more stages, and I feel like ever since the book did well, I've been getting hit up for
Yeah.
bigger stages. I aspire to follow in your footsteps because that's a really powerful way for me to connect to people and to get my message out there. So yeah, if you ever can't go, maybe you could tap me in for one of those. Um,
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Look, I think stages, especially for someone like you, is an incredible place to be able to impact lives at a magnitude that you couldn't do, all the time. And then also be able to get your brand out there and opportunities come rushing your way. And this is how I ended up opening up 3 businesses is I couldn't say no and I was having so much fun. And before I knew it, I'm slammed and finding very little time with the one that I love the most. And so thank you for being a bright light and for guiding me back to a prescription of daily doses of joy. Where can people go, Dr. Moon, to find out more about you, to follow and to get your book?
Yeah, Joy Prescriptions is available at Amazon or anywhere books are sold. I'm across all the social media platforms at Tiffany Moon MD. And if you would like to hire me for speaking, there's a form on my website, which is tiffanymoonmd.com.
Beautiful. For more information, go to tiffanymoonmd.com or hit her up and follow her on social. Dr. Moon, what an honor it is to get to spend time with you. Thank you for the impact that you're having and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Todd.
Yo, that was a powerful episode. And from what we just learned, it should be obvious how you can now implement these lessons in your life to get to the next level. Now, before you bounce, I just have 3 quick thoughts. First, thank you for taking me on your incredible life journey. Second, if you receive some value from me and you want to pay it forward, it would mean the world to me if you left an honest rating and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I'd be incredibly grateful. And lastly, if you share this episode, whether it be a screenshot or a photo from where you're listening, anything via Instagram stories or LinkedIn, Facebook, or any of the social media sites, just tag me and the guest. I'll repost your content and I'll reply back in the comments because I love mixing it up. In fact, I'd love to share your shout outs in my feed too. Not only are these shout outs really good for you and for me, but they also help us book more amazing guests because they'll be able to see the reach that you're helping to cultivate. This is a way for you to help contribute to the show. So thank you again for listening, and I look forward to earning a regular spot inside that ear of yours. Let's grow.